Do we sound good? Because there we go. I unmute, I transition. Well, transition, there we go. All right, we look good. That's important. Looking good matters. And incoming phone calls are always annoying while you're doing live events. And now we should have the unmute completely. We'll wait for confirmation from, let's see, where are we? We're on YouTube, we are on X. And how long does it take, Doc, for us to stop saying X, formerly Twitter? We can just start saying X at this point, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, we skip the formerly Twitter thing, and we should be on YouTube as well, and should be good to go. But like I said, I will wait on confirmation, and then we will give our introductions and say hello to everybody. Because we are, what's today? Today is Wednesday, doing our live with Dr. Cohn, and he's in Florida, so he's a little bit warmer than we are, but assumption on things like this is we're all inside, so it's probably about the same temperature literally where I am versus where you are. And this is just me and my tennis pro ability to talk and say nothing at all and be able to fill dead air to find out as soon as sound goes. So it looks like we have audio but no video. That's an interesting scenario. Let's see if that on works. Things like this is we're all in. All right. Do we so Facebook good. Sounds good. There we go. I unmute and transition. Well, transition. There we go. All right. We look good. That's important. Looking good matters. Now I have myself in my ear. There's a fun one. Incoming phone calls are always annoying while you're doing live events. And now we should have I don't want that unmute completely. We'll wait for confirmation from, let's see, where are we? We're on YouTube, but we are on Maximize, there we go. X. And at how long? All right, so I'm going to mute that, make sure that's good. Oh, that's fun. Bright green. How's that one? All right, well, we're recording, so let's assume we're all good, because from what I see is we should be okay to go. So I will say good morning to Dr. Cohn. This is mental performance for tennis training, mental peak performance. What are we? Mental training for peak performance is what we are trying to talk about, if I can get my words right. And we are talking with Dr. Patrick Cohn, and he is the expert in the field. So he has many years of experience in the mental training scenario. And today's conversation is specifically about who this is for. So we want to talk about your clients and who you work with specifically. So I've got three things I want to talk about today. I want to talk about who your clients are currently, who your best client would be, kind of your dream client, and say, hey, this is the best possible scenario for a mental training client, and then bring it back to what most of our listeners are going to want to hear about, which is, can it help me? Can it help the regular guy or girl? Can it help the typical tennis player, or do I have to be having some target or in some elite world where mental training is going to be either that important or out of reach or a waste of my time? But in this case, I want to find out what really matters in the client of a mental training coach such as yourself. So who do you work with currently, and then bring us into your best case athlete that you work with.
So really, Shaun, it's about all competitive athletes that want to elevate their game, that maybe have mental game challenges as well. So we actually work with athletes from 12 years all the way up through senior athletes like golfers that are 60. As long as it's a competitive situation where they're trying to improve their performance, they're trying to improve their scores in golf, for example, then that's a client for us. Now, the ideal client is one that they feel like they have a better practice game than when they go and compete. It's that tennis player that might be somewhat choking out on the court, and they feel like a different athlete. They feel like a different tennis player on the court when they're in matches. That's somewhat of our ideal client. Now, we're set up really nice because there's three of us. I tend to work with more of the professional athletes. There are some exemptions or exceptions to that, I should say. So I stick to the professional athletes, and then I have two other mental coaches that are working with the collegiate, the high school, and the juniors. And so we have someone that works primarily with the juniors, and then we have someone that works primarily with college and high school as well. So we cover all groups. And then if I have, let's say, an adult tennis player, 3.5, 4.0 competitive tennis player, then we also have someone that specializes in working with that type of client as well. Whereas I would take any professionals that come into our program. So that's the overview of who we're working with. It's really any competitive athlete, 12 to 60 and up, that wants to improve their game, wants to get that mental edge.
Okay. And so, like me, I'm a tennis coach. I can work with many different levels, but I specialize in beginner onboarding of young children. So, you have people in your organization that specialize in a certain segment of who they work with rather than everybody trying to be everything to everyone.
Right. And we also work with coaches. If coaches want to integrate the mental skills into their coaching, we also help coaches with that as well. So I don't want to discount that aspect. Even at that level, even if you're at the beginning and intermediate level, you can start very simply with some focusing strategies, refocusing strategies, routines, which you may or may not do with beginner and intermediate. So we have lots of people that come into our MGCP certification program where we teach them our system of doing mental coaching, and often those are coaches that are already working. So I've had several tennis instructors through the program.
So you can work with me and help me help them. So you help me help my clients with
Correct.
Everything we've talked about previously. We talked about the routine, we talked about the mental movement from practice to play, and you can actually help me add that to my skill set as well.
Yeah, from assessment to doing assessments with your athletes to post-match assessments, following up with them, asking the right questions, what to look for, how to understand where their strengths and weaknesses are, and then how to teach the mental skills. Yeah, so that's part of what we do as well.
Got it. And so in that case, my wife has the question in the ideal client point of view, where she says she really wants to find someone. She's a Pilates and fitness instructor. She wants to find someone that she can help the most. So it's almost sometimes even a 0 to 1 kind of concept where you want to find somebody that has the furthest to go, where most coaches, I would guess, and especially in a competitive environment where fitness isn't really the same thing, but in a competitive environment, I would target as my favorite client is the one that might have the biggest upside. Is that a scenario where you take in certain clients and say, okay, here's the target. This client has further to go. If I'm a young coach, for example, and I know nothing of mental training, that's a different client to you. That's a different path than maybe someone like me with 25 years experience that I probably have a bigger upside as to I can help more sooner. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, but we don't really look at the upside, or if you can say potential. That's, really out of our control because, we can teach the mental skills to coaches and athletes alike, but it's up to them to be able to apply it to practice and competition. So there's so many factors, Shaun, from motivation to instruction, as you know, to facilities, to having people that you play against, to the mental fortitude, the discipline, the mental skills component, practicing in the right way. We work with that as well. So there's so many components to success and what is potential and upside. We don't really measure that. We help athletes primarily that want to get better or that are struggling with being able to perform well on the court.
I love that answer because it's regardless of my potential, regardless of my upside, this is something that can be good for me, the regular tennis player. This can be something that's good for a beginner, because that would be my next question, which is I'm just getting started. Do I even need this, or is this past? Let's say I'm a young adult and I'm getting into tennis. Is this beyond what I really need right now?
Well, it depends. Let's say you're a business person and you take people out on the court and you don't want to embarrass yourself, or you have fear of embarrassment, then I would say yes. But for the most part, I would say no. If you're a beginner, you're in skill development mode and you're not ready. But as a coach, if you're teaching beginners, you can teach the mental skills right along with the physical skills. So, that's like a three-part answer to that. But sometimes, there'll be a business person that is somewhat choking when they're out on the course with another potential client.
That was going to be my next question about golf. It's probably a more likely scenario of a really a non-golfer playing golf, maybe more often than a non-tennis player having to play tennis.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but usually we tell parents when your athlete's around 12, that's a good age to start. But we'll get contacted by parents with 10-year-old, national, junior players, and it's like sometimes we'll take those on, but for the most part, we look at that 11, 12 as kind of the starting point for the mental coaching, which means they might have already been playing for 3 or 4 years. Kind of the way it is in tennis today. They start at 6 or younger today, so but that's what we tell parents when they come to us with young athletes is they obviously want to be already playing in tournaments and being competitive, and then that's an advantage for us working with them on the mental game.
Okay. So what's the magic of that 11, 12-year-old age? Is that an arbitrary choice of just saying they really kind of need a little bit more maturity, or do they really
It's the
need
maturity
3 or 4
level.
years? If I got a 7-year-old that is just too young to really get it?
Right. Very hard to teach the 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-old mental skills. They don't have the maturity yet. They don't have the awareness. It's really hard for that child to really talk to us about what's going on in their head when they're playing. So that makes it very difficult for us to help them. We can certainly teach them the mental skills, but we need to have some level of awareness where they can communicate to us their thought process.
They might still be in kind of see ball, hit ball mode at that age. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, just learning the skills, I think.
Okay. So, and then last question, which is focused on the regular player, our league player that says, okay, I'd really like this. You specifically with your products and what you offer, you've got some downloadable products. You've got some books, some ebooks, some things that can really help, because I don't know the price range of what mental training costs. It sounds fancy, so it sounds expensive. Now, the question, and again, some people might say, I don't care, make me a better tennis player, here's the money, right? But if a lot of people are probably more on a budget because, like the golfer that says, hey, I don't have my business coming in, bringing in the mental trainer to help my mid-level managers with their golf skills in negotiating deals. That sounds like an ideal client to me too, which you actually get the whole mid-level range of executives there to come in and train everybody as to how to handle a negotiation on a golf course. Maybe that's even a different product. But the regular player,
So
that
we have
person,
several levels. They can go to sportspsychologytennis.com. There's lots of audios, articles, even podcasts. We have the Tennis Psychology podcast that's out there, which you can find. And then there's that free ebook, I think, that you referenced, which they can get at Sports Psychology Tennis. Kind of an introduction to some of the challenges they might be having with the mental game. Then we have a next level, a Confident Athlete series, around $79. It's not specific to tennis. Once we get to tennis specific, now we have a program that I think is around $199. That it's what I call our premium what's called our premium package for tennis players. Not sure why that's going off. And that's a home study course where we teach them 10 mental game skills within our coaching. So it's like having your own mental coach, but it costs a lot less. And then comes the higher level is the one-on-one mental coaching with one of the mental coaches here. So yeah, which is more costly than the product.
Sure, and that makes sense, right? I download in the same way. I've got my free ebook right now. Download the free ebook is cheaper than paying for tennis lessons one-on-one. That makes a lot of sense. So there are affordable ways that I can, as a tennis player, as a golfer, I think that's a big market as well. Like I said, I think more people that don't play golf or wish they didn't have to play golf sometimes get dragged into playing golf with business associates. It's less common in tennis or maybe other sports where the executives all get together to play ping pong. But hey, who knows? Maybe we need a ping pong product that says, here's how you take your ping pong practice into the real world of negotiating your business deals. Maybe that's something we'll talk about next week. But I appreciate it, Dr. Cohn. We do have affordable ways. We've got some free options, and really it is, hey, if I want to know myself, which is one of the things we talked about last time, some of this stuff could potentially be, and maybe I'm just in it a little much to understand or to think that it might be a little self-evident. But if I start doing some research and say, hey, there are some ways that I really can intellectually bring my practice into performance, a little bit of help from maybe some of your products or some online research that'll definitely help the typical player or the league player in our case, maybe get an edge, maybe win a few more matches. Dr. Cohn, I really appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Have a great week.
All right.